Chosen one, listen carefully, because this is not a dramatic story, and this is not imagination. This message is not meant to entertain you, it's meant to wake you up. What's happening around you right now has crossed a real spiritual line. Someone thought they could test you, disrespect you, manipulate your name, your energy, or your destiny, and get away with it. But here's the truth. When a line like this is crossed, it doesn't go unnoticed. Not by life, not by the universe, and not by your ancestors. This is where many messages lose their power. When people assume it's just symbolism or fantasy, this is not that. This is about cause and consequence. When someone interferes with a path they were never meant to touch, things shift fast and quietly behind the scenes. You may not see chaos yet, but understand this. Decisions have already been made on a level you don't need access to. Your job is not to react. Your job is to stay steady, grounded, and aware. If you've been feeling unusually calm while others feel restless, if your silence feels stronger than their noise, if your life is slowly clearing while theirs feels stuck, that's confirmation. Something has ended, and you didn't even have to lift a finger. Now, before you go deeper into this message, before you fully sink into its energy, there are 3 simple things you need to do. First, subscribe to the channel to connect with this energy and stay aligned. Second, go to the comments and write, "Thank you, God, for choosing me." And third, like this video to place your intention into action. Do these 3 things first. Then let this message unfold exactly as it's meant to for you. This was not imagination. This was a real line being crossed. This was not imagination. This was not your mind creating stories, fear, or drama. Many times, when something serious happens on a deeper level, people around you try to downplay it by saying, "You're overthinking," or "It's all in your head." But deep down, you felt it. Something crossed a line that should never be crossed. And when that happens, your body, your energy, and your intuition recognize it immediately, even if your logic tries to explain it away. This situation was about boundaries, not emotions. Boundaries are invisible lines that protect your self-respect, your peace, and your direction in life. Some boundaries are emotional, how someone speaks to you, treats you, or disrespects your feelings. Some are moral, lying, manipulation, betrayal, or intentional harm. And some are spiritual, interfering with your path, your growth, or your purpose. When those boundaries are crossed knowingly, it creates a shift that cannot be undone. This wasn't someone making an innocent mistake. This wasn't confusion or lack of awareness. This was a conscious choice. What makes moments like this confusing is that the consequences don't always show up immediately. There's no loud explosion, no public scene, no instant justice that everyone can see. Instead, things change quietly. The energy changes, the connection breaks, access is removed. You may notice that conversations stop flowing the same way, opportunities move differently, or certain doors simply close without explanation. That's because the decision didn't happen on the surface, it happened deeper. You might wonder why you weren't pushed to react, fight back, or explain yourself. That's because reacting emotionally would have distracted you from what was really happening. Sometimes, silence is not weakness, it's protection. When you stay calm in a moment where chaos is expected, it means something else is already handling the situation. Your job was not to fix it. Your job was to step back and let the line remain uncrossed on your side. Another important thing to understand is this. When a real line is crossed, you don't need proof to justify your feelings. Your peace shifting, your energy pulling away, and your intuition becoming firm are all signs that something ended. Not everything ends with closure or an apology. Some things end with distance, clarity, and a quiet sense of, "I'm done." You didn't imagine this, you didn't exaggerate it, you didn't misunderstand it. A line was crossed, and once that happens, life responds in its own way. You don't need to chase answers. The shift itself is the answer. Your ancestors don't react loudly, they act decisively. When we talk about ancestors or higher protection, people often imagine loud reactions, sudden punishment, public downfall, or dramatic events. But real protection doesn't work like a movie scene. It doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove anything. It moves quietly and decisively. When someone crosses a serious line with a protected person, there is no emotional reaction on that higher level. There is no anger, revenge, or chaos. The response is balanced and controlled. Think of it like a system correcting itself. Something is adjusted, access is removed, influence is reduced, paths quietly separate. That's why things didn't blow up the way you might have expected. The silence wasn't neglect, it was action happening without noise. This is also why you weren't pushed to defend yourself again and again. In the past, you may have felt the need to explain your intentions, prove your innocence, or correct misunderstandings. But this time was different. You felt tired of repeating yourself. You felt calm enough to step back. That wasn't weakness or giving up. That was instinctively trusting that explaining wouldn't change anything, and that something else was already handling it for you. When you stayed grounded instead of reacting emotionally, you created space. And in that space, correction happened, not in a way meant to embarrass anyone, but in a way that ends interference. That's an important difference. The goal is not punishment. The goal is protection and balance. When balance is restored, chaos is not needed. You may have noticed that after you stopped engaging, things began to feel lighter for you. Your mind became clearer, your energy settled. Meanwhile, on the other side, confusion, restlessness, or distance may have appeared. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when access is quietly closed. Nothing dramatic needs to happen on the surface for something to be final underneath. Another key thing to understand is this. Decisive action doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Doors close without sound. People drift without explanation. Situations lose momentum. And that's enough. When something is truly handled, it doesn't keep asking for your attention. The fact that you no longer feel the need to argue, explain, or prove your truth means the situation has already been settled. What's done is not chaos, it's closure. And closure doesn't need noise to be real. Your calm is the biggest sign that something ended. Many people think that when something big ends, you should feel loud emotions, anger, excitement, relief, or even the desire for revenge. But when something truly dangerous or misaligned leaves your life, the first thing that shows up is not noise, it's peace. Quiet, steady peace. And that peace is one of the clearest signs that something has ended exactly the way it needed to. If you've noticed that you're not reacting the way you used to, that's important. You're not replaying conversations all day. You're not planning responses in your head. You're not trying to prove your side anymore. Instead, there's a strange calmness, even though you know something serious happened. That calm is not numbness and it's not weakness. It's confirmation that whatever left your life was weighing you down more than you realized. When a real threat, emotional, mental, or spiritual, exits your space, your nervous system relaxes, your mind becomes quieter, your energy stops being pulled in different directions. You may even feel lighter without being able to explain why. That doesn't happen when you lose something valuable. It happens when you are released from something that was draining you, distracting you, or limiting your growth. It's also important to understand that peace doesn't mean nothing happened. Peace means the conflict no longer has access to you. The battle is over, not because you won, but because it no longer belongs to you. You didn't need to fight. You didn't need to demand justice. The separation itself solved the problem. Now look at the contrast. Often, the people who cross the line don't feel that calm. Instead, they feel unsettled, restless, defensive. They may try to justify themselves, control the narrative, or hold on in small ways. That behavior is not strength, it's resistance. When someone loses access they depended on, it creates discomfort. That discomfort shows up as tension, not peace. This contrast is not meant to make you feel superior. It's meant to give you clarity. You can tell who lost something by who is still disturbed by it. You can tell who moved forward by who feels calm without explanation. Peace is not passive. It's a sign of alignment returning. Your calm is not denial. It's the body and mind recognizing safety again. You didn't lose anything important. You were released from something that could not come with you any further. And that calm you feel now, that's your confirmation that the ending was real and necessary. You were never meant to fight this battle yourself. You were never meant to fight this battle yourself. In many situations before, you may have been the type to speak up, defend yourself, explain your intentions, or try to fix misunderstandings. That was your nature. You cared, you wanted clarity, and you believed effort could solve things. But this time felt different from the beginning. Something inside you told you to stop pushing, stop proving, and stop reacting. That pull towards silence was not fear. It was guidance. When a situation reaches a certain point, emotional reactions don't heal it, they delay resolution. If you had responded from frustration, anger, or even desperation to be understood, it would have kept the situation alive longer than it needed to be. Silence in this case was not about giving up. It was about stepping out of the way so correction could happen without interference. Many people confuse silence with weakness, but true alignment often looks quiet. When you stopped engaging, you weren't ignoring the issue. You were recognizing that it no longer belonged to you. Some battles are not won by effort, but by release, and this was one of them. The moment you chose not to chase closure or validation, the situation started resolving on its own. It's also important to understand that not every conflict is yours to carry. Some problems are bigger than personal communication. They involve patterns, intentions, and repeated boundary crossings. Those cannot be fixed by explaining yourself one more time. They end only when access is removed. And that removal doesn't require force. It requires stillness. You may have felt uncomfortable at first because silence can feel unfamiliar when you're used to being the responsible one. But over time, you noticed something shift. The weight lifted, the urgency disappeared. You stopped rehearsing conversations in your mind. That's a sign you chose the right response. Life began to handle what your hands were never meant to control. This wasn't avoidance. Avoidance comes from fear. Alignment comes from trust. You trusted that you didn't need to manage outcomes, reactions, or consequences anymore. You trusted that stepping back was safer than stepping in, and that trust allowed things to settle naturally. The strongest move you made was knowing when not to fight. You didn't lose your voice, you used your wisdom. And because of that, the situation ended cleanly without dragging you down with it. The ending you didn't witness already happened. The truth is, the ending already happened, even if you didn't witness it with your own eyes. Not all endings are loud, not all consequences happen in public, and not all closures come with explanations. Some of the most final endings happen quietly, without anyone announcing them. It's natural to expect to see something happen right away, an apology, a downfall, a clear outcome that confirms what you felt. But life doesn't always work on a visible timeline. Some shifts happen behind closed doors, in conversations you'll never hear, in decisions you'll never be told about, or inside people's minds where you have no access. That doesn't make them less real, it makes them deeper. There are also losses that don't show up on the outside. Someone can look fine and still be internally unsettled, blocked, or disconnected. Internal consequences are often heavier than external ones because they follow a person everywhere. When access is removed or a door closes on an energetic or emotional level, it rarely reopens. There's no announcement when that happens. Just distance, just change, just silence. You don't need updates because updates would only pull you back into something that has already resolved itself. Wanting proof is understandable, but proof is not always meant for you. Your confirmation shows up differently. It shows up as clarity, as relief, as forward movement. You start noticing that your path feels lighter. Things that were stuck begin to move. Opportunities feel more aligned. Your energy feels less drained. That's not coincidence, that's evidence. At the same time, you may sense that the other side feels heavier, slower, or stuck. That doesn't require observation or comparison. You don't need to watch them struggle. The imbalance itself creates distance. When paths separate, each person feels it in their own way. You feel release. They feel resistance. That contrast alone tells the story without words. What's important now is not to linger at an ending that no longer needs your attention. Looking back for confirmation keeps you emotionally connected to something that is already finished. Closure doesn't always come from understanding what happened. Sometimes closure comes from accepting that it's done and choosing not to reopen it. The clearing of your path is the sign. What's done doesn't need noise, proof, or explanation. It simply needs your willingness to move forward without dragging the past with you. This moment is about protecting your next level. This wasn't about the past at all. What happened was not meant to punish anyone or replay old pain. It was about protecting what comes next for you. When life starts moving you toward a higher, more stable version of yourself, certain people simply cannot come along, not because they are bad, but because their patterns, intentions, or limitations don't match where you're headed. When people sense that they're losing access to you, not everyone accepts it peacefully. Some step back with respect. Others begin to test boundaries. They may push, provoke, guilt, or subtly interfere, hoping things go back to how they were. That's the moment protection activates, not loudly, not aggressively, but firmly. The goal isn't to hurt anyone, it's to stop interference before it reaches your next level. Protection at this stage looks like separation. It looks like distance that feels sudden but necessary. It looks like clarity replacing confusion. You begin to see who respects your space and who resents it. And that information is priceless, because the version of you that's forming now cannot afford constant disruption, emotional drains, or crossed boundaries. You're being positioned for something cleaner. That means less drama, fewer explanations, and more peace. Cleaner doesn't mean perfect. It means aligned, stable, grounded. You may notice that your tolerance for chaos has dropped. That's not arrogance, that's maturity. When your standards rise, your environment has to adjust. This moment also teaches you an important lesson. Access is earned, not assumed. Not everyone who knew you before gets to know you now. And not everyone who helped you survive gets to help you build. That's not betrayal, it's evolution. The future you're stepping into requires trust, respect, and emotional responsibility from the people around you. From now on, only those who respect your boundaries will feel comfortable around you. Others may drift, complain, or disappear entirely. That's okay. You're not here to be accessible to everyone. You're here to be aligned with what supports your growth. Look at it as filtration. Life is clearing space so the right connections, opportunities, and environments can meet you without interference. This is protection, not from the world, but for your next level. Your responsibility now is to stay grounded, not curious. Once a situation has ended and protection has stepped in, your responsibility is no longer to understand every detail. Your responsibility now is to stay grounded, not curious. Curiosity may feel harmless, but at this stage it can quietly pull you back into energy you've already moved beyond. Looking back often starts small. You wonder how things turned out. You replay conversations in your mind. You check for signs, updates, or reactions. None of this looks dangerous on the surface, but it keeps your attention tied to something that no longer belongs in your life. Attention is energy. Wherever your attention goes, your energy follows, and your energy is meant to be invested forward, not backward. Staying grounded means keeping your focus on what's in front of you, your routines, your responsibilities, your growth. It means choosing stability over stimulation, discipline over distraction. When you ground yourself in the present, you strengthen your position. You stop leaking energy into situations that are already resolved. It's also important to trust that you don't need to supervise outcomes. Life doesn't need your help to complete what it already started. The moment you stepped back, things began moving without your involvement. Monitoring, checking, or analyzing doesn't speed anything up. It only slows your own progress down. Letting go fully is not indifference, it's trust. Curiosity can reopen doors that were closed for your safety. Not every door that closes was meant to be reopened. Some doors close to prevent repetition, confusion, or harm. When you knock again out of curiosity, you invite old patterns back into your space. Grounded people don't chase information, they build stability. You might notice that when you resist the urge to look back, your mind feels clearer, your sleep improves, your emotional reactions soften. That's because your nervous system is adjusting to a safer environment. Disrupting that adjustment by revisiting the past only creates unnecessary tension. Stay focused on what you can control, your actions, your boundaries, your direction. You don't need closure in the form of answers. You already have closure in the form of peace and progress. Trust that what needed to end has ended. This phase isn't about knowing more. It's about becoming more grounded, more stable, and more disciplined than you've ever been. And that groundedness is what protects your future. This is not revenge. This is balance. This is not revenge. This is balance. Revenge comes from anger, hurt, and the desire to see someone suffer. Balance comes from alignment, truth, and natural consequence. What happened did not happen because you wished harm on anyone. It did not happen because you demanded justice or tried to control an outcome. In fact, the less you pushed, the more smoothly things resolved. Balance works quietly. It doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't need emotional energy to operate. It simply responds to actions. Every choice creates a reaction. Every boundary crossed creates a correction. This is not punishment. It's cause and effect. When someone repeatedly ignores warnings, disrespects limits, or interferes where they shouldn't, balance restores itself without drama. No announcement, no explanation, just a shift. That's why you don't feel excited or satisfied by what ended. If this were revenge, you would feel temporary pleasure mixed with emptiness. But that's not what you're feeling. What you feel instead is calm, relief, neutrality, and that tells you everything. Peace does not come from watching someone else fall. Peace comes from returning to alignment with yourself. It's also important to understand that balance doesn't always look the way people expect. Sometimes it's external. Sometimes it's internal. Sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes it unfolds slowly. But once balance is restored, it doesn't need to repeat itself. That's why you don't feel pulled to interfere, explain, or follow the outcome. Your system recognizes that the matter is closed. You may notice that your heart feels lighter without needing answers. That's because balance doesn't require justification. It requires acceptance. You accept that things unfolded the way they needed to, not to hurt anyone, but to restore order and protect your alignment. Another key sign that this is balance and not revenge is that you don't feel superior. You don't feel above anyone. You simply feel done, neutral, grounded. You're not carrying resentment forward, and you're not dragging the situation with you into the future. That's real resolution. So let this settle clearly in your heart. Nothing bad happened because of your intention. Nothing ended because of your anger. This wasn't your doing. It was a natural correction. And when correction is complete, it brings peace, not noise. That peace you feel now is not emptiness, it's confirmation. Confirmation that alignment has been restored. Confirmation that you stayed clean in intention. Confirmation that you're free to move forward without carrying weight that was never yours to begin with. Before you go deeper into this message, do 3 simple things. First, subscribe to the channel to connect with this energy. Second, write in the comments, "Thank you, God, for choosing me." And third, like this video to place your intention into action.